We got stressed cause we're striving, surviving, keep on moving to improving, rearranging. The whole world's changing, pandemic, systemic, rule making, rule breaking, disagreeing, no, we're fighting or fleeing.
Welcome to Minding the Gap, podcast and video series from Behavioral Sciences of Alabama. My name is Paul Bakke, licensed counselor with Behavioral Sciences, and I'm joined by Dr. David Barnhart, also a licensed counselor. Good morning. That's right. It's still morning.
It is.
Love that the weather is getting better and we get outside more and get sun, and it's really helping my mental health.
Definitely lifts the mood, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about exposure and anxiety, and as we typically will talk about. But we're going to talk a little bit about getting back into society and the anxiety that comes along with that, with vaccines that are coming out. People are starting to get back to work more. School is happening more on a regular basis. And some people who have been at home a lot, maybe a little bit anxious about getting back in, and the uncertainty about the vaccines and the virus and what's next, and the different opinions about safety precautions. And one person at work is not worried about it and doesn't wear their mask, and the other person is, and the conflict that comes with that. So there's a lot of things to be considered when we're talking about getting back into normal life before the pandemic.
Yeah, so there's a lot of uncertainty, and our brains do not like uncertainty. Our brains like a predictable outcome. And when we get into situations that are novel, then we're more on guard anyhow. So how are we going to manage our emotions when we get back to work? What are the variables?
Yeah, it's gonna be different, and it's going to be a little bit of the reverse of we had to get used to not coming up to people and giving them hugs and staying distant and wearing a mask and having to stop and think, and that creates some anxiety of you can't just do what's natural and normal and you've been conditioned to do. And now we've been conditioned to stay apart from people, to think before we move towards them, and being able to drop some of that is going to be difficult as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So what will be the protocol? How are we supposed to do this? Well, what's the company policy? You can have policies and procedures, and then people have automated behavior. They do things without thinking sometimes. So, if you go through a supermarket, you see somebody wearing a mask and it drops down below their nose, and you realize that, well, that's not particularly effective. You're exhaling through your nose and spreading germs. But
yeah, you see it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much every time you go out somewhere where there's any amount of people, that's happening.
Can we? Do we have to fist bump? Can we shake hands? Went to a sunrise service Sunday.
Yeah,
it was outside, a little chilly, but dressed appropriately. But it was a little chilly, and people weren't shaking hands. They did talk, but they socially distanced, and they had their masks on. And occasionally you'd see a fist bump or elbow bump. Pretty low risk. And just looking around, probably a number of the folks there had vaccinations too, but we're still outside. Later, they had a service that was inside, and there were if the choir loft holds, I don't know, 150 people. I don't know. It's pretty large, and there were like 14. They had them spaced out.
Mhm.
Actually, sounded pretty good. So that was, I got that one on Zoom. But again, you know, how are we going to break into this?
Yeah. I haven't been to church service since all this started. We've been watching online, and so
Yeah.
going back, it's a you know it's going to be a little strange to do that. It'd be nice to do it, to see people and actually talk to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've gotten a little comfortable too with staying at home and having coffee, and not worrying about interrupting someone if I get up or talk.
Hmm. Hmm. That's true.
Um,
And the other, another aspect of this is that all of these settings are different. So your work situation, the protocol there may be different from where, if you go to church, where you go to church, where maybe you have older people or younger people. And younger people are now uh, getting infected with the variant. And so we're seeing an uptick in some areas, some states, some regions with the pandemic is on the rise again. So there's a lot of uncertainty about how things will work.
yeah, and it's most, well, I'd say most of us. I don't know about most of us, but for me, I tend to think we're trending towards things being okay and getting back to normal. And then I talk to somebody else and they go, well, it maybe never be back to normal. I mean,
Right.
people maybe still wearing masks as a precaution, that may be the thing. So we don't really know. And that's part of it we're talking about is uncertainty. And, know for the NFL, we talk about the football all the time. They're planning on having full stadiums. Of course, they don't, they're not sure about what's going to be mandated in different states and things like that at that time if things change, but they're planning on, having full stadiums, which means a lot of closeness.
A lot of closeness.
And so part of what happens is, we get tired of thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to let our guard down. And, we just went to see our son play ball this weekend, and, we need to be wearing masks and socially distance. And he comes over to visit us, and, stay distant, but I don't want to wear a mask the whole time. I'm tired of it.
Right.
I'll take the risk, so people are just getting, even with the awareness and wanting to be safe, people are getting tired of it. And so there are a lot of people who are going to go, I'm just done with this. I'm just going to live my life. And then other people who are like, oh, we got to keep doing this. Now they're upset with other people who aren't wearing masks. And so there's that too. So there's a lot of things to adjust to.
One of the things that we recommend, and we recommended from the beginning of the pandemic, is to follow the protocol to stay well, but not to ritualize, not to go over the top. So thinking about that individually, we can decide what our protocol is going to be, and then follow our protocol.
Right. And it's going to be different for everybody.
Yes. And respecting other people that want to keep a distance if they're keeping a distance, or if they're not wearing a mask, we would keep a distance. But we can decide how to approach that, because we do know enough now to realize that if you're vaccinated and wear a mask, you have a very low probability of catching something from somebody else that doesn't have as much, isn't as cautious as you may be.
Well, one good example of that for me was what you just talked about was workout at a gym, small gym that's not, there's not many people in there at one time typically. And it's wear masks when the people are around, and that's the rule. Not everybody does it, and if I'm by myself, I'm not wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
But there's there's place to work out over here, and then there's treadmills that are way across the room. And one guy came up to me, and he saw that I was wearing a mask, and he said, "Do you mind? Are you comfortable with me not wearing a mask while I'm over there doing the elliptical machine?" I said, "That's fine." So that's a really good example of checking in with people and saying, "Is you okay with this?" Because he's okay with it, but you're not sure who is.
Right.
So communicating that is important. It's
Right.
respecting our fellow
Mm-hmm.
citizens and neighbors, and showing empathy for each other in the midst of this chaotic, uncertain time where the people have different opinions and different boundaries and protocols, like you said. And I think part of it too is if things are opening up, and restaurants are open and they relax the mandates for masks, is making a decision about whether or not you're willing to take that risk. That's your decision. If you're going to go to a restaurant, there's going to be people not wearing them.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. So if you go and expect everybody to wear one, then you're really kind of setting yourself up for failure. So it's really a matter of deciding what you're comfortable with, whether it's going outside. For me, I'm just more comfortable with doing a restaurant outside. It's just, but just seems to be more better, practice.
Safer strategy.
Safer strategy. And if that's for me, right? But somebody
Right.
else might go, I'm been vaccinated. I'm okay. I'm willing to take that risk.
So there's some theoretical herd immunity that we may reach at some point, like we have for other kinds of diseases. But this idea of regulating your own stress, you're making your own decision about what the protocol is that you're going to follow and how you're going to respect your other either colleagues or other citizens. And you manage your own anxiety and stress about it if you follow your own protocol.
That's right. And it's very similar to relationships where people have different values, and it's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just different. What's more important to what's important to someone is not as important to another, and being able to respect that and communicate that. And we get into a big problem when we get into right and wrong. You're wrong for doing that. Says who?
So we'll tend to follow the science.
All the science, right? And that's what you said in the beginning was the protocols really kind of will start with our professionals, our experts in the medical field that are saying this is what's best.
Right. That's what they specialize in.
That's their, that's it.
Right.
That's why we have those people, and thank goodness we do.
Yes. I'm always grateful.
It's like you were saying, we've said that before, there's a level of trust that's helpful in all of this, because we don't know. And nobody knows for sure, but there are people who have been studying it and know a lot more than us.
That's true. And they're able to say with some level of confidence that you have 95% protection,
right,
or whatever that might be, and you're very unlikely to die.
Yeah.
Which I think is
that's big.
That's kind of big.
Keeping people out of the hospital and keeping people from dying, that's a big one. So and it's the same thing with whether to get the vaccine or not. You know, some people will say, you know, everybody should be made to take to get the vaccine. Oh, hey, that will not go over well, right? People
In
don't
the,
like being made to do anything, especially put, you know, something in their body that they don't want.
we will cut off our nose to spite our face or if we feel that our freedom has been constrained in some way, we try to restore it
Yeah.
automatically. Um, so it's not a good strategy
No.
to do that. Although some countries apparently are able to do that.
Yeah. That's some do. That's right.
Mhm.
And that we don't want that.
But
Not with things like that, you know.
let's see if we can have a positive influence on as many as we can.
Right.
And then
Positive influence by education and science and encouragement and understanding
Mhm.
and that's all you can do. You know, some people are just, you know, some people are just going to get stuck in one way of thinking, and that's just the way they're going to be.
Right.
And there's not a whole lot we can do to influence them.
A
But
lot of product of our recursive thinking, the tendency to think about the same things, to stay with the things that we're comfortable with and stay away from the things that we're not comfortable with.
and then we've got a lot of people that do that.
Yes, including
So
you, including us.
yes. Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's no question about it. That's so many
exactly.
things.
Right.
But in my mind, I'm going, well, yeah, I'm right about those things. That's not a problem for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. So
I'm open about the things I need to be open about.
exactly.
You know?
That's right.
So yeah, so it's but the main idea that we're talking about here is our own protocols, what's comfortable for us,
Mhm.
and respecting other people's as much as we can without, you know, being the judge of them and um, letting it divide us, because, you know, that's the gap that we've talked a lot about, is that a lot of those things can create a gap, bigger gap, and understanding and empathy for others and even different opinions is important in all this. So we can control those things, our own protocols,
Mhm.
our own ability to respect other people who have different opinion, and be able to respect someone else's comfort without trying to force them to be like us.
Yes. To be empathetic with those that are at extremes, how can we understand why they are that way? Maybe that would be a good discussion at some point.
There's no question about it. You know, we're gonna get into that, and that's a good lead into our brain talk that we had before we started this.
Mhm.
Is we're going to talk about the function of the brain and how some of these things happen uh, that kind of may create this conditioning that people get stuck in on certain things. And it's not a, you know, we talk about it a lot, it's not a character flaw. This is just a conditioning part of the brain that's very difficult to get different things in there.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, but you said it. We have the same way about certain things. We're stuck on things. We just think we're stuck on the right things
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
us. Okay.
Yeah. We think science is the way to go.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it is one way to go.
It's one way to go. All right. So all right. So we kind of got a little bit of a tease for a brain talk the next time. But I think the main point is that just kind of it's increasing awareness of getting back into society and all the different stressors that are going to come with that. And then being able to focus on our own protocols and respect others. If we start there and stop and think in that gap, we got a shot at a resolution.
We do. We do.